Okay, you guys ready to start?
I'm ready.
Yeah. All right.
We have to strap in our seatbelts, put the bar down. The ride's about ready to start.
Did you ever watch Eddie Deason in 1941?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I know you watched that movie not too long ago, and to me that was a horror. Of course, we're on the radio. We are Citizen Watch, folks. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Citizen Watch here, broadcasting from Studio C, the palatial Studio C. We have the cappuccino machine running. We've got the lava lamp going on. We've hid the hookah, but and just to let you know, we use that shoebox lid to get the raisins out of our Raisin Bran. Nothing else. But we have in studio with us Steve Colvard, the best engineer in the business. Of course, I'm running the board. I'm trying to learn the intricacies of AM radio. And we have Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, in studio on the mic, looking as dapper as ever. You know, it's we call ourselves the three most eligible bachelors in Merced, but I'm afraid that's ending soon because Robert's got one on the hook.
I know. I think he's getting ready to get into a relationship.
Well, he told me he sent flowers the other day, and I told him, Robert,
I was being polite.
You can't go over to Evergreen there. You need to take the thing off that says, Grandpa, we miss you.
No, I didn't do that. What I did is if you go out there, you can send plastic.
I asked him, I said, what does this girl see on you? And he said, well, she's legally blind.
That's funny. I do notice that you have bigger boobs than she does.
Yeah. Oh, really? Well, is she a full C then, huh?
Yep.
Well,
just a double B.
If I can just give her a bit of advice, get out. But no, I'm happy for you, Rob. I'm glad you found out. How old is this girl?
12. No, I mean, come on, give me a break.
No, really, how old is she? About double that, right?
No, let me tell you. I'm being very nice because it's ladies' guest night at the Italo Lodge on the 24th.
Right.
And so young ladies like, you forget me, and I do because I try to do things from memory and I don't write them down as much as I should. And so I was just being polite. What did you do over there?
Well, your level is dropped off, brother. I'm doing the engineering portion of this.
Yeah, I think did you turn it up?
Yeah. His mic has a tendency to go out. Talk, Robert.
You do that on purpose.
There you go.
It's not. It's intentional. So, anyways, what I do is, I've slighted some people in the past. So, you do nice things. You bring them a Starbucks card, which leads me to, I have the Starbucks card for. I've got about 6 more people that said from 300.
This contest is ending tomorrow, folks, so you better get in. Our tip line is area code 209-406-8728.
Tell me what the contest is.
We're guessing Casey's Wade, which, if I didn't have such a good sense of humor, I tell you. But we've had a couple entries. We had Mr. Abate call in. We've had a couple other folks, which you're close. All I'll say is you're close, like hand grenades.
And you don't have to be right on.
Yeah. See how he's gone off the subject of this girl?
Yeah. What's up with this? I mean, where'd you meet this girl at? How do you know this girl?
Who?
Have you guys been on an official date yet?
At least when I go home, it's a girl. With you, you're spooning with men, so be nice.
Oh, now that's not nice.
Neither is
that's
your. Let's
not true.
get to Frankie.
Okay, folks, we should get to some serious business here on Citizen Watch. As you know, it's the silly season, as I call it, the election season. We have an election coming up the first week of June, the primary, and one of the most critical offices we'll be voting on is our new sheriff. As we know, Mark Pazin went up to Sacramento. He's the Office of Emergency Services. If something happens in California, Mark is going to lead us out of the darkness, which I hope we don't hit an earthquake. Anyway, it's one of those deals where several people have thrown their hat into the ring. And I was talking to our guest before we went on air, and I was very candid. I said that I believe had Mark stayed, that he would have ran unopposed this year. And but he's gone. And so now we have 4 candidates in the race, and we have one of them here. Yeah, there's 4. There's a gentleman out of Livingston. There's Vern Warnicki. There's Mr. Pat Lunny over at the District Attorney's Office. And in studio, we have with us Frank Swiggart. Frank, welcome.
Thank
Frankie.
You always
can't say that.
You always want to put that Italian connotation on everybody's name.
What, Frankie?
Frank may be Portuguese, as for all we know.
Heck no. Are you kidding? He's our generation's Frank Sinatra. Look at him.
Yeah, well.
Handsome and dapper.
I want to welcome
Absolutely.
Frank to the Studio C facilities. We've got him a cappuccino. We have him ensconced in the big recliner. He's 47 years old.
Big recliner.
He started with the department in 1990 as a reserve officer. I've been a reserve officer for 33 years, so I understand the importance of that. The last 23 years, he's worked every beat in the county, every shift in the county. He's had I think every position in the department. He's currently running the Merced College PD under a contract with the sheriff's department. I think he has 4 or 5 officers, some code enforcement citation. What do they call them?
Officers.
Citation officers over there under his purview. He's got the budget increased over there, so he can do a little bit more. He takes care of 10,000 of our kids that go to Merced College over there, the brain trust of our future, and it's a very important job. My father started there in 1962 at Merced College, founding faculty member. It's near and dear to my heart. As Robert had said, it's a beautiful campus. But Frank, we welcome you in and want to talk about your candidacy and what you're doing to achieve that top position. And is there anything more you want to say in your bio? I didn't mention your lovely wife.
Oh, yes. Been married for 7 years, 7 beautiful years. And I have 2 beautiful daughters. And
they going to school? Are they older now?
I got one graduating, and I got one who's working on her master's degree.
Wow. Congratulations.
Full time.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Education, we're always harping on that. Of course, we have the 10th University of California. But, like I said, Frank, I think one of the sergeant with the Sheriff's Department, correct?
Correct.
I think one of the things is had our former sheriff still been here, we wouldn't see this interest in running. And what that tells me is there's a need. I've heard all of the candidates say that we want to take the department in a different direction. And that means the direction we were going in maybe weren't 180 degrees off, but it's something that maybe we need to get back in the lines of the road a little bit. What's your opinion on that? What are some of the areas
we need? We need to get back into the basics. We need to get back into the customer service type business where we actually listen to the problems that are going on in the communities and try and address those accordingly. A lot of the things that we can do right off the bat is a little transparency between the community and the law enforcement, and kind of learn a little bit more about one another so that we can see what the citizens' needs are versus how the law enforcement world works. So if there's a little bit more understanding, then there's a little bit more trust that can be built. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we're trying to do.
And how would you do that? How would you accomplish that?
It's going to take a little bit of the getting out and introducing yourselves to the community again. The deputies are going to have to make their relationships again with the community, and even if it takes deputies staying in a certain area so that they can get to know them, then we need to start working that direction so that the citizens can walk up and say, "Hey, this is what I saw, this is what I know," and not be afraid of any kind of repercussions in the future.
Is that the way it used to be? I mean, is that when you first came aboard? Did you feel like you had a solid relationship with the citizens of the community?
Yeah, I really believe that when I started, my biggest focus was getting out and talking with the community, finding out what was going on. Some of the business owners, what's been happening here. What kind of vandalisms do you have? Trying to find any issues and problems that were happening, and then trying to address those accordingly during my shift.
And then some point along the way, you feel like we lost that?
Yeah, I think we're back to just the cut and dry, just handle the call and we're done, and thank you very much, and we're busy, and we're shorthanded. We're doing more with less. We always have been, throughout our county. So
my question with that, though, is, we get a lot of people who say the reason that I have friends of mine who say that the reason that there is a big void between law enforcement and the city people, citizens,
yeah,
is the fact that a lot of the law enforcement aren't from here. Bob Luna was a great example. City police. Everybody knew Bob Luna. Everybody knows his brother, Dave Luna. And so Bob hey, Bob, come here. I got to ask you something. And when you have that, it creates a better communication. Where you got people who are from Fresno, Madera, or somewhere else, they don't know who you are. You're trying to flag them down, and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Well, Frank said something interesting in the Merced County Times. They did a nice article on him last week, and it said, Frank said, the days of scolding and shaking a finger at people who live in fear because they have lost faith in my agency will end. He promises this. The only way for us to run criminals out of our neighborhoods is if we work together to learn the mutual needs between private citizens and law enforcement. What do you mean by that, Frank? Again, keeping deputies on a beat longer, not moving them around, letting them get to know their community, is that one of the issues? What other things?
Well, one of the things that we have is when they change a shift, they leave the area vacant for a while. That's one. Working out schedules where we can actually overlap a little bit, or is one issue. If the community is ready to make the statement that they're tired of the criminal element, the gangs and the drugs and everything else in their community, if they're tired of it and they're ready to come forward and the sheriff's department's ready to tackle that with them and help displace all those bad elements, then it's a mutual effort. It's not just a single effort from one side versus the other. This is where the trust comes back, that we work together to displace all the negative crimes that are happening.
When you're saying this, I'm thinking of Planada. Look at the rampant crime we have out there. Murders literally in the middle of the street. Everybody shuts up. They don't want to be a snitch. If I hear that one more time, it's going to kill me. People need to take ownership of their community, right, Frank?
That is correct.
And they need to feel that the police or the sheriff's department is there to help them, not hurt them.
And that is correct. And a lot of it is protecting them as witnesses and protecting them as citizens of the community. We want to make sure that we get those bad elements out of the area. We displace them. The community actually stands up and takes their towns back, and that's what we really need to force these criminals out of these communities.
And in order to get accomplished what you want to get accomplished, are you going to need additional boots on the ground, so to speak? I mean, is that something that's going to have to be part of the equation in order to be able to spend the time, kind of introducing yourselves, back to the citizenry, if you will?
I think a lot of it is we're going to have to realign some of the deputies that are not on the street at the moment and put them back on the street, and put as many of them on the street as possible with the hope that they're going to get out there and be proactive. As long as we're proactive on the street and we're out there displacing our criminal element, they're going to be tired of it. They're going to leave. You're going to see somebody come forward when they see us out there doing, the high profile, proactive activities. Mm-hmm. Not always is it a sweep where you go in and do things, but it's going to have to be on a consistent day-to-day basis where the deputies are out there consistently.
To kind of break that mentality, because Casey said this a few times, every time you see a police officer and the lights on, you think, oh, crap, what did I do now? It's almost like, the old saying where if you want to be a hero, you be a firefighter. If you don't want to be the hero, but they use another term, you get into law enforcement, because usually when you're seen, it's not good news, right? I mean, that's a hard stereotype to overcome. And that only comes through showing up in circumstances that aren't necessarily negative. And that takes time, especially when you've got these negative calls coming in that you have to address.
But the problem is, to me, when I was growing up in Chicago, you always had Officer Friendly and Mr. Stranger Danger. And they went into schools and they helped educate kids that, hey, if you're lost, if you need help or anything, you can always trust a police officer. And I think Hollywood has eroded that, because every time you watch a movie with any kind of shenanigans, the police is always, there's always a bad cop, there's a twist. And I think that doesn't help anything with the police officers nowadays. And I also think that, when I see Frank, it's like, hey, Frank, how you doing? And you could talk to him, and he has an open door policy. A lot of the people I don't think have that. I think a lot of people have I'm governing from above, and there's a code and there's a channel how to get to me. And what happens is you say, forget it, I'm done. And I think putting more boots on the street is a good thing, but they also need to know who their constituents are. And I always go to Bob Luna. I mean, it was absolutely amazing what he did downtown, riding his bike downtown and just,
Well, and you bring up a very good point. The education. We got to get into the schools earlier. We got to educate these kids, not in middle school. We got to get into the elementary, second and third grade. Let them know that the police are still good. Kind of run a drug gang, kind of an awareness kind of a situation, so these kids know what they're looking at when they get into the middle schools, and they know what choices they were going to make previously. And I think that's something that we can work together with the Office of Education, and we can try and develop something in the future.
Steve Gomes, a collaboration. Dr. Dr. Somanex, one of the disturbing statistics to me is 90% of the people or less in the department have been there less than 5 years. Now, to me, that doesn't show stability. What do you attribute that to? Is it wages? Is it being competitive in the workforce, or are people disgruntled and leaving?
We actually have a really big issue with losing people to agencies that pay more,
right?
And at times give better benefits. Those are the things that we've struggled for in the past. I've worked with when I was the Deputy Sheriff Association. I worked with the Board of Supervisors one-on-one and really tried to bring that to a close, in which we were able to find some funding to help financially keep deputies that we've actually sank a lot of money, time, and training into here in Merced County. So, and we're hoping that that's going to continue in the future.
So that collaboration with the Board of Supervisors is very important.
Very important.
And you're prepared to deal with them. You've dealt with them in the past.
Correct.
And so you feel that you can promote your case and try to get more money for your cause to try to keep these people around.
We're always going to try and make our budget a little bit bigger, and we're always going to try and put more deputies on the street and in the jails. That's just a constant. We need to find the ways, and hopefully collaboratively we can work with the Board of Supervisors to find that funding, whether it's state, federal levels, whichever it's going to be.
You know, you brought something up about corrections, and we're going to go to our first break, but afterwards I want you to talk about some of the divisions that have been between the deputies and the corrections side of things. I know there's been some hard feelings in the past, and what you would do to maybe bridge those gaps. But we'll be right back on Citizen Watch on this Thursday evening. Beautiful day, 80-degree weather. Couldn't be any better living here in California.
Let's go to break.
Chamber of Commerce Day.
All right, yeah. Robert's got to send flowers. We'll be right back.
Watching this beautiful, palatial... Oh, sorry.
No, we love getting the unedited Robert. Welcome back to Citizen Watch, Studio C.
Palatial. Come on.
Palatial Studio C, actually, here at the KYOS headquarters at 1020
I love his words.
West Main Street. If anybody wants to send us a letter, tell us what they think of us, you can send a letter to 1020 West Main Street, Radio Merced. Put at attention either one of us. That tip line, once again, 209-406-8728. We love to hear your solicitations, even if it's about my weight. And
yep,
we've got a lot.
We're getting close, buddy. Tomorrow's the day.
You're blowing the mics up, Rob.
That's because you're in the wrong mic.
We've got a lot of good leads that we're going to be reporting on throughout this year, and of course we have Steve Colvard, best engineer in the business, even though he's letting me run the board a little bit. And then we got Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, and a very special guest in here today, Frank Swiggart.
Special.
He's running for sheriff of Merced County. He'll be in the election here coming in June, and we encourage everybody to get out and vote. We're tired
Casey,
of
did you
these
tell-
10, 12, 15% turnouts, folks. Come on. Get out there.
Did you tell Frank that you were considering running for sheriff for about 6 seconds?
Yeah. We have a great opportunity here to change the direction in our county. You know, I'm tired of being 58 out of 58 counties, and the top law enforcement officer. You know, it's like Law and Order, one of my favorite shows. The first half of the show, the law enforcement goes out, rounds them up. The second half, they send them over to the district attorney for prosecution. It's a hand-in-hand deal, and Frank needs to work with the district attorney. Of course, we know Larry's running unopposed this year. And one of the things we talked about before the break was corrections, because even though we have a jail made out of Swiss cheese over there, the correction officers are, I understand, putting in a ton of overtime. And this is costing our county a lot of money in overtime. And I've always felt that overtime maybe isn't the best use of money.
Why?
And also there's a safety issue when you have correctional officers working 60, 70 hours a week.
Why are they working so long, though, Case?
Well, and that's what I want to ask Frank, and I want to ask some of his opinions, because he's going to be in charge of corrections, and he was with the DSA, Deputy Sheriff's Association. I don't know if they represent corrections or not.
No.
So there's always been a little, I won't say friction, but a difference in opinion. I'm used to the San Diego Sheriff's Department, where folks in the Sheriff's Department started in the jail, and then they go out into the field after about 7 years.
So you were a jailer for a while?
No, I'm just used to that system. Now, we're a little different here in Merced County, and I'd like Frank to address that.
Some of the staffing is below, I believe, what is standard. We need to make sure we have enough correctional officers that they're not overworked, they're not stressed, and all that does is promote opportunities for the inmates to take advantage of them when you're exhausted. Those are, always the issues that we're always going to try and put more bodies out there. And the other one is looking for a new jail facility in the future where it's a maximum security, it's built differently, and it takes less manpower to maintain it. That's going to be the ultimate goal for us. But right now we're trying to harden up the existing, you called it Swiss cheese, the existing facility with the higher fences and walls that have little metal sheets between them now, so that it makes it more difficult for people to leave. I know we've gotten several strands of barbed wire up there, and the last guy that decided he was going to try and go over the fence
looked like Swiss cheese.
Cut up pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
well, AB, let's talk about AB 109, because you're getting a different element in here. You're having to keep people years now that you didn't used to have before. How do you look at AB 109? Is that work in progress?
I think there's loopholes in that we need to close in the future, and I'm hopefully working with.
Can you give me one? Because Casey rails about AB 109, and he's had dialogue with Mark while I was there, which was the past sheriff.
The way I understand it is sometimes somebody who doesn't qualify for AB 109 will do something of a lesser crime and then qualify for the AB 109 and then get put back into the community. So it's one of those reoffense. Now you make the cut and the grade, and now you're back at local area.
Those guys know the system, don't they?
And they found the system to have that flaw, and they're working it. So they don't go to the state time; they come and they do it local time, and then it puts them back on our street. So there's some little loopholes like that I think need to be addressed. But as far as it coming into our communities, 70% of the population at the John LaRocca facility right now is waiting to go to court. The 30% are the ones that we're going to be worried about that are going to have to spend that year or better or being out on the program, that we're going to have to go maintain and check on them and so on and so forth. So the more we can get addressed, the better off I think we're going to be.
People through the system. This is where Larry's job is so important.
Yes,
helps you out
and
by getting these people this backlog out.
Absolutely. And collaboration is going to be the best way to take care of all those loopholes.
Right. And again, you both are going to the county with your hat in hand, and it's like who can get the most money to take care of their cause. But it works hand in hand, doesn't it?
It does. It very much hand in hand.
Let me ask you a question. Why do we have 60% waiting to go to court?
Just the way it
70%.
is. I mean, they have the...
Or 70%.
Well, Frank can address that.
And I believe it's the part of the court systems and somebody getting postponed again. And those are issues that I think are going to be worked out through the DA's office.
That's something that always bugged me, is that this is always what bothered me, is when I go to court against somebody, they're not there. Well, let's postpone it. No, wait a minute. He's not here. I'm here. The court says 9 o'clock. Okay, and it always bothers me.
I think Frank will tell you that these criminals are pretty sophisticated, and they know how to play the system like a Stradivarius. And they like getting that bus ride in from the mush, coming in here, getting a bag lunch, seeing all their homies in court, and then headed back out. And it happens more often than not. And so if they can have one little delay or one little thing of this and that, they'll do it, right, Frank?
Absolutely. Some of the things that we're looking at is making sure that we can do video arraignments, video trials, so that way we're not actually transporting them. We're not putting any more officers in danger of that element of being on the roadway. So those are some of the things we're trying to close up. So as court gets postponed, it's not really as a burden on our department as it has been in the past.
Frank, one of the things under your purview is you're going to be able to...
Can you just pick that up and set it back down? Sorry about that.
Yeah, just there you go.
Unplug it.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you'll have a chance to appoint is your undersheriff. Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yes, you do.
But do you have anybody in mind, or would you rather tell us the type of individual you want for undersheriff?
Or can you just real quickly, before you even mention
tell
that?
us what the
what is the difference between
does
the
the
sheriff and the undersheriff in the organization?
One's under.
Well, the undersheriff is going to be hands on site, day to day,
like administration.
Your right-hand
COO,
man,
like the chief operating officer.
He's going to be the guy that's going to have his finger in every little pie that's going on, so that he can actually
or she
administer the department leadership. as a sheriff, working with the undersheriff is going to be a directional deal. We need to focus and work on certain directions and take lead from the sheriff as to what we want done and how we want to get it there and what kind of personnel we want to direct that way. And it's up to that undersheriff to be the guy that's going to, or gal, that's going to facilitate the thoughts and the wishes of the sheriff.
Implement your vision,
right?
So to
the
speak.
vision correctly, and that's kind of where you got to not come out really quick and say who you think you're going to have, or you're going to, you're friends with somebody else. This is something that it's going to take.
So would this be a position that you want someone to compliment you, or kind of be someone that's going to debate with you? Direction and things like that. Is this somebody that you want to kind of be on the same page philosophically as you, or is that even
yes, the idea is that somebody has the same vision and the same direction I do, but yet on the same flip of the coin can play devil's advocate, and we can take care of all the loose ends that might be a negative in that direction. So yeah, absolutely, it's going to be somebody that's going to have to be pretty well.
Then from a sheriff perspective, is that a political beast by nature? I mean, is that one of those things where you're going to have to play the political games and solicit funds and things like that?
As the sheriff,
that's part of the gig,
yes.
And you want to go into that arena, huh? I take my hat off to you for that.
I look at it this way: I can't make any changes to the department or direction until I get there. And right now I'm the only full-time working law enforcement sheriff's employee that's running for sheriff. The opponents are retired. One's come back as a part-time, and the other one's working for another agency in Merced County. I've got working knowledge of the department from within. I make the staff meetings. I hear what's going on. I hear the positive. I hear the negative.
Right.
And those are the things that the administration above me at this point is not stepping up. So I want to be the guy that's going to have to step up, take on the responsibility, and see if we can get this direction going back to the basics, boots on the ground, and displacing the bad element in our communities.
So you have an idea of what you think needs to be done here locally, in-house.
Sure.
But then a whole other facet of your job is probably up in Sacramento somewhere, right?
Solicitation of all kinds of things, yes.
That's why you have an undersheriff, right? I mean,
well, that, and you have to have a long-term vision, and you have to have somebody to implement it. And you've talked about some of the opposition or some of the other candidates, and they hang their hat on this administrative ability, which is important too, because law enforcement is a different animal now. It's just not going out and busting heads and rounding them up. You have to be budget conscious, where you're getting your money from, where that money is coming from. It may take 5 or 6 years down the pipe. And when I think one of the things you talk about is you're going to be around for the long haul.
That is correct.
You're not just a one-term sheriff.
No, I've got 12 to 16 years ahead of me before I even think of the word retirement. I feel like I'm the type of a leader, administrator that can listen first, not make a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not a good old boy. I don't have to pat somebody on the back as they walk through the door. I like to believe that it's going to be collaborative in the efforts and where we've got to go. Mm-hmm. So leading by example is going to be one, and then the other one is going to be just to make sure that we're rock solid and we earn the trust of the communities again.
Can I make a comment about that?
It's very important, Frank, the integrity of the department, because if you don't have integrity, the citizenry won't stand behind you. Steve saw an incident at his apartment complex the other day. A person was pulled over. There was catcalls from the crowd, almost a riot situation. And when we have a couple of bad apples, it takes away from the whole department. And in the past, we've seen some shenanigans going on, some things that just aren't right. And people aren't stupid, are they, Frank?
No, not at all. And we look at it this way. There's probably 90% of all of our negativity comes from 10% of our population. Yes. So, we're kind of focused on who we're dealing with, and we just got to play that game of by the law.
Right.
And those are the oaths that we took, was to protect and serve.
First time I've heard oath. Great.
Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of California, those are what we swore to protect. So that's what we're after.
My comment, thanks, Case. My comment is when you said you're going to be here for 12 to 16 years. And I've had people come to me and they say, well, who are you running for sheriff? How come you don't have signs in your yard? And I'm kind of torn because I know you very well. And you came out and said, hey, and I said, sure, I'll support you. And then Vern is a nice man. But the other candidate it bugs me is the fact of his age. because I don't see him staying long. I don't see him, they brag, everybody who's his friend and his ally says, well, he's a great administrator. Well, that's fine and dandy, but isn't that like the undersheriff? He'd be like the perfect undersheriff.
Yeah, but I think, again, we have to go back to defining the administratives. You're going to administrate locally, and then you have to administrate statewide.
Right.
Now, I think what you're talking about with that one gentleman you're referring to earlier, the one-term gentleman, is
possible one-term.
His perceived strength with his relationship with the state level.
Well,
you don't really hear a lot about his interplay here locally, but his strength is perceived to be that he's got connections up in Sacramento.
But his rhetoric has been totally different than Frank's and Vern Warnke's. Vern and Frank have talked about boots on the ground and how we're going to go one-on-one with the citizenry. I don't hear that from the other gentleman. The other gentleman talks about how he is so opposed to his buddy who was Mark Page, and they were good friends, and it just rubs me wrong that you're breaking bread with the man, and then when the guy leaves to go to Sacramento, you're ripping him to shreds and saying how much it would be better, how do you say the case? Help me out here.
How much better it'd be?
How much better it'd be with him there?
Well, that's true, and maybe we'll get that other gentleman's opinion sometime. But one thing that Frank just talked about was taking an oath to the Constitution, both the state of California and the United States. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you your opinion on the Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms, and the people's right to carry concealed weapons. As you know, our previous sheriff was very resistant to issuing CCWs. He was actually sued and lost. And I've heard him say a million times, well, I want to make sure people are hitting it all 8 cylinders, people are wired right. I mean, he even talked about having psychological exams for people with CCWs. Your counterpart up in Stanislaus County, Mr. Christensen, has issued a lot of CCWs in his tenure. I haven't seen any big issues in the paper up there in Turlock with people going nuts with guns. And I think that, again, you took an oath to uphold our Constitution, as I did. So give us your view on issuance of CCWs.
It's lined out pretty clear as far as the requirements for a CCW. If you pass the requirements, if you make all the required training and all the required background, if you make those requirements, I don't believe there's a reason you should not have it. And I know you're familiar with the Ninth Circuit. It says that just self-protection is now still a valid reason.
Right.
I believe that's a privilege. I believe that people deserve to have the opportunity to have that CCW.
Right.
I think it would send a drastic message through the community of Merced County that you don't know who is carrying a concealed weapon. And statistically, we've found in the past that those places with a higher CCWs have a little less crime rate. So we're hoping that the law-abiding citizens of Merced County will just continue to do what they do, be law-abiding citizens of Merced County.
Right.
Take the training to a higher level. I think we could make Merced County's a CCW program with the firearms aspect of it. I think we can make that probably something a little bit more uniform across the board, make it maybe even a little bit more stringent so that people actually get a really good understanding of that CCW.
So it would be safe to say that if the Swiggart administration is elected, that you would be more open to CCWs than it has been in the past.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. And I know a lot of people are very concerned about that here in this county, and I know that's a big issue. Folks, we have to go to our second break, and we'll be right back on Citizen Watch on this beautiful Thursday evening with Steve Colvard, the ginger engineer. And of course,
he's on engineering the last 2 weeks.
Robert, the smitten co-host.
I'm not smitten.
The man's in love.
Quit being a knucklehead.
Velvet's in love.
You ought to see the...
You want to see me whip your butt?
You ought to see the light. Okay, folks, we'll be right back. Stand by.
Hey, you want to just leave, Case?
We're on the air.
Well, that's great, Case. Thanks for letting us know ahead of time before you press the button.
I like to get the unedited Robert, just like... Your new girlfriend gets the unedited.
There's no new girlfriend. Besides, 302 is what we've been bidding on. Casey, 302.
Just can't stand to lose, can you? Hey, folks, welcome back to the third and final segment of
Not
Citizen
in control
Watch.
Is the point.
On this Thursday evening, 2 days after tax day, hopefully everybody got their money into the government there, because, brother, we need it. We need a new jail. We need one that somebody can stay in, not a bed and breakfast. But You know, you get out by noon. Listen, we have Steve Colvard here, drinking his coffee, letting me run the board, which I'll tell you, Steve, I really appreciate the opportunity.
So you're getting paid to do nothing.
We have Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, with love in his eyes.
There's no love. You know what? Yeah. You're just mad and hate
keeping
me because
every florist in Merced in business. Florist.
Makes you feel good to see it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
see a guy in love like this.
It is.
I didn't love you, morons.
He walks into a restaurant not by himself a lot now, so that's.
I don't do anything.
Congratulations,
that's good.
By the way, Robert.
Yeah,
you found love.
Whip your butt and poke it in.
Quite the gender gap there. 28. My shorts. What do you have in common
28.
with her?
What are you talking about?
What do you have in common with her?
What are you coming up with all this crap?
Is she Italian?
Do her homework,
huh?
Yeah, they're grilling me. I feel like I'm in Frank's jail.
Hey, look, we have Frank Swiggart in studio here, and he's running for county sheriff, top cop in the business in the county. You know, they always Payson and Morris would tease each other about who was the top cop. But folks, if you don't arrest him, Larry doesn't have jack to do.
Set that straight. Who is it? Because you're right. They always.
Well, it depends on who you ask. But I will tell you that the consensus that I've been able to come to is it's the sheriff.
It's the sheriff.
It is the sheriff.
The sheriff has the ability.
This is why this election is so important.
We've had some sheriffs in America that really stand out. Joe Arpaio
Reggie Hammond
comes to mind. There's some guys out there that really take the lead, and I get the feeling just in the last 30 minutes talking to Frank here that he's ready to take the lead. And we've talked about the difference between administrative and boots on the ground and how important they are. The undersheriff filling your vision, and I don't want to take all the time and talk all the. I want to let Frank express his opinion. He's been over there at Merced College, and you've had to do the administrative side. You've gotten more money for the budget, so you have that experience. And tell us how important that is, and anything else you'd like to say.
Well, it's very important to foster that relationship with the administration, and or in my case, the sheriff. It'll be the board of supervisors,
right,
to work together collaboratively to find the funding to make things go forward in the future. I was able to increase their manpower with another officer and another car. Increase their revenue from their ticket citations. Mm-hmm. So these are things that we've kind of worked together collaboratively,
right,
and we've actually increased it. Now the fundings that we've been using have been turned into a direction in which the officers are now getting more training. They're getting more opportunity to be proactive on the campus and stop people and remind them this is a small city out here, and we have rules that we have to live by, and we deal with it that way. So administratively, I've worked their budget. I've worked the administration and the board of trustees to get their trust and their belief that the vision that I have, which is going in the future, you need somebody that's still a little old school as far as the boots on the ground aspect of it, but you also need somebody that's
not too old school,
about 47 at this point,
not 67,
to go forward with technology and everything else,
right,
and be here long enough to plant the seed, see it grow, pick the fruit, and if there's anything along the way that we have to do to continue to get it to grow better in the future, we have to go ahead and do that.
Can I make a comment?
Quickly.
I've gone to Merced College, and I got to tell you, they do a great job. And you look at what Frank has done out there with the police officers, and it's a good job. And so
I don't park in a red zone out there.
No, and the situation the situation I'm looking at is when I'm looking at a candidate, I want to see your body of work.
Right.
And when I look at it, I'm not at the state, so I don't know what that body of work was.
Right.
Okay, but when I go to Merced College, and I have friends of mine at Merced College, and they feel safe, and they feel that the security there is more than adequate, then I look at Frank Swiggart and I say, you're doing a good job. Why not why not get your vote for sheriff?
Well, he has an opportunity here. One of the things we always hear about is the marijuana and the gangs and the nexus between those two, or not the nexus. Sheriff Payson had a vision of these cartels coming over and taking in things. Larry, district attorney, looked at it a little bit differently. We do know he prosecutes a lot of marijuana cases, but what do you think the answer to addressing the gang problem? Are these two separate issues? Do what would you do differently in attacking the gang problem? We've had the Winton massacre, as I call it, no leads out there. We're already up to our 2013 deaths in the county already, and here we are in the fourth month of the year. Doesn't look good. So what do you see as something that you would do differently that's been done in the past in addressing this gang problem, this north versus south, these fighting over points on a compass?
Yeah, and that's true. There's kind of an aimless direction when it comes to is it the gang or is it the drugs? Which one do you do? And I got to tell you, I really believe they're hand in hand. I believe that gangs facilitate a lot of the drugs, and I believe a lot of the drugs are facilitated through a lot of the gangs. So you can't have one without the other, I don't believe. So hitting the gangs very hard is also going to be hitting some of the drugs pretty hard. And on the other flip of the coin, our drug task force and our gang task force, or our street crime units, do work pretty close together about both sides of that fence, because they do overlap so much. And I believe that's something that we need to continue to do, but we need to focus on showing how the gangs are being displaced and get them out of our communities by doing the probation search, doing the parole searches, consensual contacts with them every time we see them. How are you doing? Where are you going? Things like that they're not going to want to deal with law enforcement. They're going to want to leave and go someplace that nobody bothers them. And we want them out of our county.
And how do you balance that with the, as I always say, there's a lot of sick people in California, the medical marijuana laws, SB 215, 420. How do you feel about having dispensaries, or do you think it needs to be a black market situation? In other words, how do you balance those two? Because it's a difficult thing, right?
Well, in my position, it's my job to enforce the laws.
Right.
And in the new ordinance that came out, we enforce that for the betterment of safety.
Right.
Because I know a lot of the issues that we have are some marijuana ripoffs, and they turn very bad and sometimes even deadly. So limiting some of the abilities that they have in our county is actually for a safer reason. Mm-hmm. I believe it's not completely, eliminating the need for it, but it's given us the enforcement aspect from our point of view to where we're now not having as many of the drug ripoffs and the home invasions that would pertain to marijuana.
Right.
So that's what we're focusing on.
So you're comfortable with the folks growing 12 plants, taking care of their own medical needs. Again, it's a law now that they have that right. And so you support that.
My job is to enforce the laws.
That's right.
Not to make them.
That's right. Okay, and I think the department has been very proactive recently. Geez, it seems like every day in the paper we see these illegal grows, 1,000 plants, and it seems to be the theme. They're all tapping free PG&E out there, which upsets me as a stockholder. But it's something that I know that you may not agree with every single law, but like you said, you're there to enforce it and to uphold that. And so there has to be a balance. My own personal opinion is that we need to take some of that out of the shadows, get rid of this black market. And I think that if we have rules and we enforce them, it'll be easier for you to do your job, because then it's clear who should be doing what and who should not be doing what they're doing. And it has a nexus with the gangs and the cartels, and like you say, if we leave it in the gangs' hands, we're just going to have more gangs.
Correct.
So look, this has been a great interview. We still have a lot of time left. I mean,
let's let them talk.
What do you see? We talked about federal and state powers. We've seen this incident in Nevada. Any comment on that, with how the federal government maybe exercises their role as opposed to the state government? What's your feeling on that?
Well, I have to worry about what's going on in Merced County.
Right.
And if something to that nature started to occur, I'd be on a one-on-one page with whatever agency was trying to come into this county and work a peaceable way through things. Mm-hmm. I can't really comment, on how they've handled things and so on and so forth. But the state of California does have a pretty good bite to it, and hopefully they would actually step up a little bit also. So,
well, I know one of the interesting things I found about that is the gentleman's been all over the Fox News, Sean Hannity, and another thing he said is that he totally recognized. One of the questions that Hannity asked him was, if they came to get you in the middle of the night, would you go peacefully? And he said, if the sheriff did, he said, I would totally respect the authority of the sheriff. Right. He's the chief law enforcement officer in my county.
Right.
I will do what he says, but I'm not listening to the feds. Mm-hmm. And that's the relationship that I find very interesting is, there's some people believe that your authority or the sheriff's authority supersedes every other entity in a county, and that the man who calls the shot is not the federal entity that comes into the county. It's the sheriff of the county, who's the top dog, and it trickles down from there. He dictates how things are going to be handled. And we're living in a time now, I think, where more and more of those incidents could come to fruition, and the relationship between the sheriff and the federal or state entities that come in to do what they need to do, that relationship's going to be put to the test, and we're going to see who actually is calling the shots.
Yeah, we've had other shows talk about water, and they've said, the sheriff can go up there and turn the gates on and off at Exchequer, and I don't think you want to get into that fight.
No, and we've talked about this before too. What people don't appreciate is, you can grandstand and possibly do what you got to do, but they control the purse strings. So you might make a statement for the press or whatever the case may be, but pretty soon all your funding's cut off, and then what do you do? Yeah. So
I think in Nevada,
it's that delicate line that you have to walk.
Well, in Nevada, it was like that old Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee was the commandant of West Point. He was the commander-in-chief. When Civil War started, they went and they said, Abraham Lincoln gave him the opportunity to run his forces, and he said, I can't go to war with my state of Virginia. And I think that's what this gentleman's point is that I will deal with the sheriff, and I'll deal with the state. But the federal government, give me a break. You pick and choose your fights, and then you get... look at it. All the times when the federal government has wanted to push themselves around and whatever.
Yeah, but that goes to the bigger question: who has the jurisdiction over the BLM? All that land that was being grazed upon belongs to the federal government. So, do they have jurisdiction, or does the county sheriff have jurisdiction, or does the county at all?
You never know. The sheriff could be his brother-in-law.
Things that Frank is looking forward to getting in.
We got BLM land.
But what other opportunities do you see for improvement in the department, Frank? We need to kind of wrap this up, and we're getting short on time. Unfortunately, 45 minutes.
Can I ask you a straight question too, real quick?
Sure.
Well, how's the morale? How's the morale over there? Are people proud to be part of the Merced County Sheriff's Department?
I think they're proud to be a deputy sheriff, but I want to push a little bit more of the proud deputy out there that knows the community. I want to make sure that they're feeling that the things that they do on the street are recognized and seen
and appreciated.
And some of that appreciation may have to come from within the administration of the sheriff's department, so that they feel that the job that they're doing, they're supported on the street. And in the jails, the same way. Corrections. These guys make decisions at a snap moment. That's what we have to support, is because their training and experience has made that decision. Now, if it's a wrong decision, it doesn't mean it always has to be in the worst case scenario of discipline. It may be just a correcting of some training in the future. So getting down on the deputies and the correctional officers is not what is the focal point. The focal point is getting them to where they're ready to go out and know that we're standing behind them and supporting them.
It's called confidence, right?
Confidence.
Give them confidence in the organization.
Building the trust back with them and through the community. With that trust, we can do a lot of things.
I think that's so crucial. I really do. Getting that synergy back between the citizenry and law enforcement.
Right.
I had a weird thought.
What?
I wonder what Mr. Buttrey's thinking about now.
He's probably waiting to hit 50 to collect that retirement that we gave him.
No, but I mean, he was supposed to be the heir apparent and boy, did that turn out wrong.
We have a whole opinion on Mr. Buttrey and the money we paid him, and
we should air it.
And these are the type of things that I think Frank is aware of.
Are you enjoying the campaigning, Mr. Swiggart?
I actually am. Yeah. I'm getting out.
He eats good.
Got any events you want to promote?
Matter of fact, by the time this airs, we will have just concluded the Atwater fundraiser.
That's tonight, right?
That's tonight. And we're expecting a good crowd.
Wait, how could it be at a fundraiser and on the radio at the same time?
Well,
because I'm the sheriff.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear.
What other events do you have coming up before June elections?
We're hoping to have a May 17th fundraiser in the Merced area, with more details coming out with that.
If people want to get a hold of you, Frank, how do they do that?
They can get a hold of me on Facebook, and they can also get a hold of me at SwiggartForSheriff.com.
So you go on Facebook, put in Frank Swiggart, and you pop up?
Absolutely.
And the whole family pops up.
SwiggartForSheriff.com?
Yes.
And then do you have any phone number, anything you want to give out, or no?
336-6211.
And they can talk to you and voice their concerns.
I answer the phone.
Can you do that one more time
Area
slow?
code
209-366-6211.
And I would encourage our listeners.
336-6211.
That's almost my Social Security number.
6211.
Correct.
And I would encourage our listeners to talk to all of the candidates. And it's good that you're accessible, and we appreciate you coming in here to the Citizen Watch Gauntlet. Some people are afraid, but you aren't, and I appreciate you've been the first one in. And I hope to, if it goes to a runoff, I hope to be able to talk to you again. And
we got a little time. We might drag him back in here again before the general election.
That's right. Our microphones are open to everybody. We try to keep it fair, right down the middle of the line. If any of our listeners have any questions, call in.
Or concerns, or comments. Criticism.
But I would encourage them to call that number. We're going to give it one more time the right way.
209-336-6211.
Great. Frank, thanks for coming in today. Robert, you can go to
Robert's in love.
I'm not. There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Reggie Hammond.
We're going to go out with Captain and Tennille, Muskrat Love.
Oh.
Just for Robert. Folks, thanks. See you later.